All right, guys, welcome back to the Sooner Surge. Make sure you hit the subscribe button as we are just keep putting video out for you. Just make sure you hit that so you can be up to date. Turn your notifications on, and you will get notified every time we release a new video. And today we're going to just kind of continue our series on position group breakdowns as we're going to start with the wide receivers tonight. We're going to cover wide receivers and tight ends. So the wide receiver room a lot deeper, I feel like, than it was last year, Jackson. Give us some kind of background of it.
Well, there's a lot of really unproven depth right now. There's guys that have had talent based upon their high school production, guys that transferred in, but there's not really a lot of guys that are proven yet, that haven't proven their worth. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not talented or anything, but I believe that this year we will look for guys, for example, a couple guys that need to step up. Jaleel Farouk, he needs to be a wide receiver one this year. Okay, last year he was wide receiver two last year, but also Drake Stoops in the second half of the year took on a lot of that role from Farouk. So, and Farouk and Stoops, them two, they had Mims a lot to lean on last year. And so can they step up as the top two guys? And obviously, who starts in that third spot? Is it Brendan Thompson? Is it Nick Anderson? Is it Andrew Anthony? Is it Jaquez Petaway, a true freshman who has
Jaden Gibson?
Jaden Gibson. There you go. There's another guy. So you talk about really when you look at the potential of guys that can play, you just go down the roster. You have Jaden Gibson, Jaleel Farouk, Nick Anderson, Andrew Anthony, LV Bunkley Shelton, DJ Graham, Drake Stoops, JJ Hester, Brennan Thompson, Jaquez Petaway, and Gavin Freeman. How many guys did I just name there? 9 or 10?
A lot, yeah.
That's crazy to think about the depth and what a job that Emmett Jones has done. And I know that this isn't a recruiting video, but you look also the way that Emmett Jones is recruiting. Guys are going to have to hurry up and step up and get these roles that they have down, or there's going to be more competition coming in quick.
Well, and like you said, with Emmett Jones, I mean, just look at the transfers that came in this year, Jackson, after he came in with Brennan Thompson, huge get from Texas, Andrew Anthony from Michigan. And so when I look at the receivers, Jackson, I mean, you mentioned not a whole lot of experience, but they do have between Farouk and Stoops. I look at those as those are their experienced guys with the most snaps. Obviously, Stoops coming on his fifth or sixth year, whatever it is. And then Farouk just, kind of come on last year a lot more than he did previous year. And so I think, like you said, yes, those two guys, I think if you ask most people, those are going to be penciled in as your two receivers there. It's the third one that we're all curious about. And I think if you ask probably 10 OU fans, you'd probably get 8 different answers maybe. I mean,
that's what I'd go for.
At least 5 probably. I mean, not 8, but yeah, quite a bit because nobody knows. I mean, we were at the spring game and Jaden Gibson had a few drops. But at the same time, I've heard he's had a great summer with workouts, really been in every drill he could be in with practice, everything. And so I think he's probably going to come out and try to prove himself in the fall camp. And fall camp starts next week, guys. I believe Friday practices start, and it's going to be a freaking battle. It's going to be a battle for that wide receiver third. I think it's going to be and you look at what they have. I mean, we know Farouk. He's kind of to me, he's an all-around receiver. He's got the speed, the hand, everything, right? He can play slot. He can play outside. Stoops is kind of your premier just slot guy, right? He's got that roll down, really good at it. Where I think it's kind of going with who they brought in and everything is the speed aspect. When you look at guys like Brennan Thompson, Andrew Anthony, Petaway, I mean, all these guys are speedsters, and I know Mims was really fast. And guys, if you're not watching anything at all in NFL right now, Mims is tearing it up.
He is in Denver.
So if you're wondering how Mims is doing, he's tearing it up. He's going to be a big miss for sure for OU. But you look at it, some of these guys can really take the top off the defense. And that's going to be huge this year. And I'm interested to see how they're going to play all these guys, Jackson. One thing we talked about last year after games was just not enough substitutions with the receivers to give other guys some opportunity maybe. And so we're going to see that this year. Gavin Freeman's another one. Gavin Freeman's put on more muscle, and the only thing I'm wondering about Gavin Freeman is I think him and Stoops are so interchangeable that maybe they'll be giving each other breaks. Maybe I don't know. I don't know about them both being in there together. So I don't know. We'll see where Levy's going to go with this.
Well, I also know that speaking of Gavin Freeman, Jeff Levy during the coaches' luncheon they had the other day, I specifically talked about Gavin Freeman when asked by Toby Rowland, and he said that every opportunity kid's got, he's taken it and ran with it.
Yeah.
So all spring we heard Gavin Freeman. We saw the game tying or the last touchdown of the game against in the spring game, a throw from Jackson Arnold. So you talk about a kid that just seems to always be going above and beyond his expectations. And he talked about, he was recently on a podcast with Caden Helms and Nick Anderson, and he just talked about how much he has looked up to Drake Stoops and how much he's helped him. And he knows that he's not going to be wide receiver one in the slot, but he knows, hey, I got my role. I know what to do. And speaking upon wide receiver three, to me, the battle's going to come down between Andrew Anthony and Nick Anderson. Those are the two guys I think most Sooner fans are set on, honestly. Jaden Gibson, I think, has a shot there. Brandon Thompson with the speed. But I just think if Nick Anderson can stay healthy, I think he'll be the best wide receiver on this team this year if Nick Anderson can stay healthy.
Yeah, and that has been the problem, has been his injury bug. But, we've also heard a lot about Pedway, man.
Yeah.
For a true freshman to come in and get a lot of playing time. But Venables talked about him at Media Day, saying how well he's played as well. So, and how well he's practiced. So it's going to be extremely interesting to see how they use all these guys.
Yeah. And also the wide receiver room has so much more competitive depth. And that's a word that's been focused on a lot, is competitive depth. It's been emphasized so much. And when you also look at just really, there's some guys we haven't even talked about yet, like LV Bunkley Shelton. That's a dude in the spring game who got plenty of opportunity to make his name known. I mean, the kid, he's a great route runner. That's what he is. He's a route specialist, kind of like Drake Stoops, but not as good as Stoops. He's just someone that is going to be your more second, third down receiver, your more possession receiver. That's the role I see LV Bunkley Shelton having this year. I don't expect him to start, but I expect him to contribute in a way. And also, the last guy who may have had the most impressive catch in the spring game was DJ Graham.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't talked about him.
He hasn't been talked about at all. People are forgetting this is his first year at receiver since high school. He was originally a defensive back under the old regime.
But he was a highly recruited receiver.
He was
really good for receiver.
I think he may have been All-State in Texas. I could be wrong on that.
Yeah. That's interesting too. And what you're going to see in fall camp is just the battle for this third spot. I just think it's going to be a heavily contested battle to see who wins it. And I think probably, Jackson, the first 3 or 4 games of the year, you're going to see a bunch of receivers play. I can see
8 or 9, I would think.
Yeah, I can see them rotating them in to see who's going to play in game situation. I would love for our viewers in the comments below, a challenge for you here is to put in the comments who will lead the team this year in receiving yards for Oklahoma. Who would you pick as your leading receiver in yards for Oklahoma this year? Put it in the comments below. Anything else on receivers before we move to tight ends, Jackson?
Well, I would say who do you think is going to lead the Sooners in yards?
In yards, I'm going to go with Farouk, and I know that's an obvious answer. But Mims is gone. I can just see Farouk being that guy. But here's the thing I would say, though. If a guy comes in that third spot and is really a deep threat, I could see somebody in that role racking up a ton of yards. So, but with this offense, having 2 backs, I think the play action and stuff, I think we're going to have some guys running pretty open in the deep.
Yeah, for sure. And to me, I believe if this guy stays healthy, it's going to be Nick Anderson. I do talk about a guy that has all the physical traits. We've seen the videos of the dude in the offseason working out, running routes. He looks like honestly, I know it's only a workout, but he looks great doing that. So it's, can he finally get over that hump and not get hurt? And as you said, there's going to be a battle. And really, the tight end room, who's going to be tight end two? Because we all know tight end one is going to be Austin Stogner, right?
Yeah.
You look at guys like Caden Helms and Jason Llewellyn, who are going to be second-year players, both redshirted last year, didn't play. And then you look at a guy like Caden McIntyre, Blake Smith from Texas A&M, Josh Faniel, the Cameron junior college transfer that actually played basketball. So he's a guy that we heard a lot about in the spring with just how great he is athletically. And I know that he also went on an interview with Caden Helms and Nick Anderson, and he said, yeah, he feels like, because he used to play football in high school, he feels like he's gotten it back. Now he feels like he can actually play with the tight ends at Oklahoma. So that's a guy that has confidence now. So Jason, just maybe if you could talk a little bit more about the tight end room and what you see amongst these guys.
Yeah, I mean, getting Stogner back was just a massive get from the portal because of his experience, man. I mean, because like you said, the rest of their tight end room is just so inexperienced with snaps. I think they got some young talent there with Caden Helms and Jason Llewellyn. And I'll tell you, the guy you mentioned at the end, Josh, I cannot pronounce his last name.
Daniel, I believe.
I would tell all Sooner fans right now, write his name down and keep an eye on him, because I think he's going to have a career. I think he's going to surprise a ton of people. I think he's that gifted. He's that gifted athletically. And if you go back to a lot of tight ends that play basketball, they're really good on the football field. And I'm telling you, I think he's going to be that guy. I think he can really be a game changer. I will see about this year, but Stogner, obviously the guy. My only concern with Stogner, Jackson, is the injuries. And so, physical guy, really good hands. Can he stay healthy? Because what we haven't seen is Caden Helms and Jason Llewellyn hardly at all out there. No. And so I'm just like I said with the wide receiver room, I'm super excited to see this battle, to see who kind of ends up in that spot other than Stogner. But I'm also super excited to see these guys play in their first few games. And, because we got used to, the tight ends at Oklahoma in the last, I don't know, let's go back 8 to 10 years, been pretty impressive, Jackson. You go back to Mark Andrews, obviously, but even after that,
and Braden Willis,
Braden
Willis before he got hurt against Texas.
So it's going to be interesting, and also I'm interested to see. We all saw how Willis was used last year with Levy, but with this team, I think with the two running back set, they're not going to run a two running back set a lot, probably, but they're going to interchange the backs, I think, more than they did last year. And so I'm interested to see if that tight end is going to have a little more, like I said earlier, with the play action stuff. I don't know. We'll see, but I'm interested to see how it's going to play out, Jackson.
Yeah, and you talk about really how will they use these tight ends. You talk about they have two very athletic tight ends in Caden Helms and Josh Faniel. Caden Helms in high school was basically a wide receiver. That's what he was. Yeah. And so can he put his hand in the dirt and block? That's the real question. And me, at the beginning of the year, I honestly probably would think Blake Smith would be tight end two for the first couple of games. But just like you said with the wide receiver, I expect them to rotate guys in. See who's got it. Because it's really – there's a guy we haven't talked about, true freshman, Cade McIntyre, who was a beast. Now, he played small school ball in Nebraska, I believe. But, he was still great in high school. In my opinion, he's one of the most underrated players in the country last year.
Yeah.
Cade McIntyre. And you talk about just JoJon Finley. The real question about him so far has been, can he develop his guys? Because obviously he turned Braden Willis into an NFL draft pick last year.
Yeah, and Braden Willis.
Talk about really all of his other guys. Greg Calcaterra medically retired. Or he left Oklahoma. And then you had Stogner who transferred. So Braden Willis was really his only guy that he could have his hands on. And you saw what he did. And he recruited debatably the best tight end in the country in 2024 in Devon Mitchell.
That's right. That's right. And Braden Willis, we could go back and watch a lot of tape from last year. He was kind of a do-it-all tight end. He could block, he could catch, he could very athletic. So it'll be interesting to see, because I think Stogner's a little different than Willis, just in his just remembering when he played at OU a few years ago. Granted, that was Lincoln Riley's offense, a little bit different. but they used Willis a lot of different ways last year. So I'm interested to see kind of what they do with Stogner. You know, a lot of things we don't know because Lebby has been here 1 year. You know, it's not like we're sitting here under year 5 of Jeff Lebby where we know what we're going to get from the tight ends and the receivers and how they're going to use them. We haven't. I don't think honestly, and we're going to talk about quarterback room on our next video, but I don't think we've seen the full potential from Lebby's offense yet because of Dylan Gabriel. Good quarterback, don't get me wrong, but as far as making all the throws that a NFL style quarterback can make,
He
I
does
don't think
not have the ceiling of Jackson Arnold.
that's right. Now he has a ceiling to get OU to a playoff, and
I
I
do.
think they could even if their defense is good enough, I think they could contend for a national championship with Dylan Gabriel as a quarterback. But what I'm saying is some of the throws that Lebby I'm sure would love to have made. I don't think Gabriel has that you would have with the Jackson Arnold or whatever. But all that to be said, we haven't seen the full aspect of Lebby's offense. I don't think 1 year as an offensive coordinator, you're not going to see everything. You're not going to really. And Lebby even said there's some things he did wrong last year. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see. You know, like they opened up with Arkansas State, and then I'm telling you, game 2, SMU.
I agree. I'm right with you.
That's gonna be a sneaky game there, and
Yep.
so very interested to see how. And like you said, see how they rotate these guys in, see who's going to get the playing time other than Stogner, how all that's going to happen. So,
yeah, for sure. And as you talked about, just with the questions in the tight end room, I believe that Stogner can turn into a 3rd, 4th round pick. The dude has some of the best hands out of all the tight ends in the country. We saw while he was here at OU. He's a big, massive target, a lot larger of a target really than what Braden Willis was. And so I expect to see him used across the middle, unlike we didn't see last year, just due to his height. I mean, what's he, like 6'6"? Is that Stogner?
he's a big boy because Spencer Rattler loved throwing to him at OU and South Carolina. So I think Gabriel loved him as like a security blanket type deal. Just somebody at 6'6" like that. I mean, really big bodied, so guys aren't going to get around him. He can kind of almost like basketball. You can block your guy out. I mean, he's just big bodied like that, tall, 6'6". So, like you said, he's going to have a great year. I really think Stogner's going to have a great year. And so, anything else, Jackson, on tight ends?
Nope.
All right, guys. Appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, subscribe to the channel. Almost to 1,000 subscribers. Be the one to get us to 1,000, please. Go ahead and like this video and be ready for our next one. We're going to talk about the quarterback room. I know a lot of OU fans have thoughts on the quarterback room. All OU fans, every single year, have thoughts on the quarterback room. Yep. Remember Spencer Rattler? It was Spencer Rattler or Caleb Williams. You know, the backup quarterback's always the most loved quarterback, I feel like, for OU fans. So it'll be interesting. We'll talk about Dylan Gabriel, who I think is going to make a huge step this year for OU. I think he's going to be obviously, I think he'll be the best quarterback in the Big 12. That's just my opinion. But I think he's going to get the career, the record for college football as far as the most passing yards. He's close. And so I think it'll be a great year for Dylan. But make sure you tune in for that. That'll be our next video. Till next time, everybody. Boomer.